Hello and welcome to this little video of 25 Easter eggs and things you may not have noticed in the case of the Ghostly Guide, taken from 2022 Sam Spallucci, Fury of the Fallen. Now, before I carry on, I have to say a big thank you to the sponsor of this video, members of my book club and members of the Kickstarter who donated towards the publishing of this book. And that is the wonderful Gemma Innes, Paul Lewis, Debs McGowan, Roanna Escuff, Simon Brindley and Lee Hardy. Thank you very much, guys. If you'd like a shout out in future videos, then why not have a look at my Patreon book club? Membership starts from just £1 a month and you get all sorts of content. There'll be links down below. And also, don't forget, click that like button and why not subscribe? Get more of these videos in the future. Number 1. Children's books. Sam mentions at the beginning of the book The Tiger That Came to Tea, Little Rabbit Foo-Foo and Not Now Bernard. Now all three of these are, I have to say, some of my favourite books of all time, even though they're kids. Highly recommended. If you haven't read them yet, you really ought to. Number 2. Asmodeus. We first encounter Asmodeus at the end of Ghosts from the Past, where he shoots Wallace before, Sam sends him beyond. And along with Ashura, who obviously is going to feature quite heavily in this novel, they are major players in the forthcoming Fallen Angel. Number 3, A Messy Business with a Genie. This is actually a reference to the third case in this book, the case of the generous genie, and it's actually sort of like set probably, I think it's about 12 months in the past, and it shows how Sam ended up at 15A Dalton Square. Number 4, RPG noob reference. This is a reference to all those big open world RPG games like Skyrim and Fable. And basically Sam's talking about how, you are continually at the beginning going back to your home village or wherever to go and visit the blacksmith or the store to get all those goods before you can finally take on bigger and better monsters. Number 5, Solomon's Temple. Sam gives a potted history of Asmodeus' time on Earth, including the building of the Temple of Solomon, which Alec has referred to in previous books. Don't you think it'd be rather useful for readers to actually have a full account of that story? I mean, you do keep mentioning it after all. Funny you should say that, Shirley. It's actually on its way. And we're going to see the events of the building of the Temple of Solomon and a lot more regarding Alec's history, as it were, in 2023's novella, Child of Light, which along with Child of Fire are going to be the companion books to Sam 8, Lux Eterna. Also in this section, Asmodeus talks about how he completed the temple in 7 days, although he would have preferred 6. And this is a direct reference to Genesis 1, with God creating the world in 6 days, but actually resting on the 7th. And it shows that Asmodeus has this designs on Godhead. Also, it sort of demonstrates Asmodeus' time in Canaan, as the number 7 was exceptionally holy to them. Their gods did everything in 7s. You really are a very clever cat. Number 6, Candidates for Canor. Now, at the end of Troubled Souls, which was Sam 5, Sam tries to send Canor beyond, but fails, because Canor has already been beyond and escaped. So this is just a little reminder here that we have 2 candidates for whom Canor might be so far. Malcolm Wallace and Sam's own son, John. Number 7, the Potency. Most of the time that Sam encounters the Potency, certainly up to now, they've been in this white empty space, or a white space with weird things or brutal things going on. This is sort of like showing how the potency is connected to heaven, because the potency was created in heaven. And when Sam has been to heaven in Troubled Souls, all that was white as well. So you've got this sort of like parallel going on. Number 8, the Titan. Now, this is a biggie. This motif is becoming a more regular feature in Sam's books and in the expanded universe, especially as we're drawing nearer to the events of the Divergence. It's already cropped up in Songbird, and we've had references to it with Bobby Normal as well. And there is always this chant of "We are one." What we have to ask ourselves now is the question, who are the we? Number 9, Williamson Park. The crowning glory of Lancaster, that beautiful park with the Ashton Memorial up at the highest point of the local area, is very important for Sam. It's of great significance because he has confronted werewolves there. He's lost his love there. He's encountered the potency there in a warped version of its playground. And he's now watching her play with ducks there, which on one side might seem very innocent, but then of course she creates a construct duck. So here in this beautiful park, we sort of like a taste of things to come. Number 10, Tears Before Bedtime. When Sam uses this phrase to this little 8-year-old manifestation of the potency, he's repeating the phrase I mutter myself on a regular basis whenever I see kids playing their parents up in town, high on sugar additives, caffeine, whatever. Yes, it's also what you say to me when I run around like a lunatic in the evening. Number 11, Thomas Edmondson. I love how small and supposedly insignificant people can have such a profound effect on history. Edmondson single-handedly revolutionized train travel with the invention of the train ticket. I mean, imagine where we could be without him. Okay, admittedly, trains might not be perfect at the moment, but without Edmondson, it could have been a lot worse. And a big thank you to the guys at LoonTube for their wonderful video regarding that. I'll post the link down below. Number 12, climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops. Like me, Sam loves his walking. It's what he does to go out and relax, all that sort of business. And this is a reference to a time I actually climbed up Ben Nevis some years ago. And there was this very cheery American tourist zoomed past me with a guitar on his back and just wearing bare feet and flip-flops at the highest point in the UK. He made it to the top, sang Kumbaya or whatever, and then yomped back down again. Number 13, Church Street in Lancaster. Church Street is exactly as I describe it here. And in fact, it's supposed to be one of the oldest streets in Lancaster. Not only does it have Banks Lyons Jewellers, as we have in the book, which is in the former original offices of Lancaster Guardian, but it actually has a little blue plaque just outside there saying that this was the original Roman road which led from the fort out of town. Number 14, Tim the Turk. Every now and then, someone annoys an author so much that they just have to be abused in a literary work. Didn't you once have a vandal who smashed up your new car and you ended up having them eaten by an elder god? You know what? I did indeed, Schrodie. I did indeed. Tim the Turk is another such person. Back in the summer of 2021, I was walking home from the university down the cycle path, which connects the town and sort of like university. And this flash of high vis, bombed past me, and just went, your side, my side, your side, my side, and sped off. Obviously, suggesting that I was walking on the wrong side of this cycle path, even though all the signs were faded out and there was no way of knowing which side a pedestrian, which side a bike should be. When in fact, all you could do is like ding in the bell and a polite excuse me. He had to go. Number 15, the divergent lands. When someone needs sobering up, what normally suffices is, a strong coffee or a blast of fresh air. The potency here decided that a vision of the brutality of the divergent lands would work quicker. So not only does it give us a little bit of humour in that respect, but it sort of reminds us where the stories are going. There is this apocalypse on the horizon. And also, it makes us aware right from the beginning of the book that Asmodeus isn't just this sort of like peacock type narcissist who loves himself. He is in fact a cold-blooded killer, and we forget that at our peril. Number 16, the Abyss. Here the potency talks about her creation, or rather hers and her twin sisters, as they are like two in one. She clarifies, although Asmodeus says he fashioned the potency in heaven at the time of the creation of the physical realm, she was originally part of this massive flowing sentient waters, this huge river that circles around beyond the heavenly realm and the physical realm. And as with the image of the Titan, the Abyss is one of these sort of like motifs which are becoming more and more prevalent in the books. And we see it as being, or rather see her, because she's feminine, as being a major player in the cause of divergence. She's already been encountered in Songbird. She's going to be in the final two Bobby Normal books, and she'll be a central player in Fallen Angel, where we see Asmodeus create the potency, as he's talked about. And we learn here in this section, there's actually the Abyss that sent Tam back in time to confront Wallace. Number 17, Shadow Wraiths. Up until now, Sam has only encountered the very basic form of construct, the dome-headed, no eyes, long serpentine tongue creatures made from clay. We now find, or at least Sam now finds out, that there's more than one type. There are Shadow Wraiths, which look more humanoid in their creation. They specifically serve Asmodeus post-divergence. Now, those of you who've read the Bobby Normal books will have already come across these. They are brutal, and they are the ones who murdered Bobby's father for being somebody who's standing up against Kanor. Interestingly enough, the Wraiths, as they're originally called, just Wraiths, were in my teenage stories about Claw the Vampire Hunter. Those of you in Bobby Normal will also recognise that name. And they were going to be these big bats. But then, Claw got shelved for many years, and I started watching later on Stargate Atlantis, where the antagonists were Wraiths. So I sort of thought at that time, poop, I can't use that. It's not a good idea. It's already been done. In fact, they look very similar. But here we are, we're back again. I've polished them off, called them Shadow Wraiths, because nobody will know. It's sort of like just similar to Atlantis, will they? Number 18, Lancaster Castle. If you ever visit Lancaster, perhaps on one of my tours, you can book them through my website, airschambers.co.uk. The castle is somewhere that you have to visit. It's probably one of the best preserved castles in the United Kingdom. This is due to the fact until relatively recently in its history, it was a working prison. Number 19, Calvin Watson. Calvin first appeared in Troubled Soul's first case, the case of Cherokee Checkout. Even when I was writing that, I decided I'd already wanted to use him. And the idea of the Case of the Ghostly Guy was already sort of like bouncing around in my head. And he is a prime example of how the supernatural beings in the Spallucci-verse aren't actually that much different to us. Number 20, Pendle Witch Trials. The witch trials that took place at Lancaster were, of course, covered in Shadows of Lancaster, the third Sam Spallucci book, when it was discovered that Boombox Betty was one of their descendants. This little section covers some of the misconceptions that people have regarding the trials. Namely, they weren't executed at the castle, and they were hanged. They weren't burned alive. Number 21, Secret Tunnels. I love this one. Almost every town has legends about there being secret tunnels underneath them. I'm not sure what causes these urban myths, but they do run rampant all over the place. Even in Wellingborough, where I grew up, which Wellington, Sam's hometown, is based upon, there were stories about them regarding Oliver Cromwell raping and murdering this maid and then running off through one of the tunnels. I couldn't resist using them here. Number 22, Spud. Spud the Grotesque is one of my favourite characters in the Spallucci-verse. He's appeared 3 times now in Sam's stories, and each time his sort of like personality is developing. I've really, really enjoyed working on him, and I'm hoping, say in 2024, he might finally get his own short story in what's tentatively being called Hear My Scare. Number 23, the Priory Graveyard. The graveyard in the story, like Church Street in the story, is exactly as it appears in real life, down to the raised headstone around which the ghost played poker, and the headless statue of Lady Rothwell. Number 24, the Ghosts of Lancaster. When creating the ghosts, I wanted to have a varied representation of like the ages for Lancaster. Hence, we have sort of like ones from Roman times, one from Middle Ages, one from Victorian, and then we've got the modern ones as well. 3 of note in Calvin's little troupe are Mrs. Siddons, Lady Rothwell herself, and the headless guy. Mrs. Siddons was actually based on a real-life actress who is alleged to haunt the Grand Theatre. Now, I made a video about that a couple of months ago. Again, I'll post the link down below. And it's actually an interview with a member of Footlights and a guide at Grand Theatre, so you might find that rather interesting. Lady Rothwell is the headless statue in the Priory Graveyard. There's a story about her supposedly falling from the tower of the Priory, trying to stop the clock, to stop her husband, I think it was, being executed, something like that. I'm not quite sure. But the headless chap is a story I really love. Sir Richard Owen was a very famed gentleman who coined the term dinosaur. And he actually grew up in Lancaster, and as well as coining the term dinosaur, he founded the Natural History Museum down in London. But like I say, he spent a lot of his time in Lancaster, and he actually worked a lot of the time at the castle, and he was into his anatomy. And there was a story that one day he was coming home from the castle, and he had the head of a convict in a bag and dropped the bag, and then the head went tumbling down the hill. And there's a bit of a local legend about the screaming head of Castle Hill, which still goes on today, and that's what I was using here. Finally, number 25, Boombox Betty. I love Boombox Betty. We last saw Betty back in Shadows of Lancaster when she met her grim death at the hands of the horrid Colin Knoll. I felt it was only fitting that she'd be the one to come and sort of like help Calvin move on, and then tell Sam that his deceased friend Spliff was still hanging around, and that Sam was Spliff's unfinished business. Hope you enjoyed those. 25 little Easter eggs. Again, like I say, give us a quick like, give us a quick subscribe. That'd be superb. Watch out for the next one.